Hello and welcome to Project Home DIY. I'm Christine, the owner and curator of your Project Home boxes. Thank you for joining us this month. If you are brand new, you should have our new starter kit in your box and a bunch of new goodies. So this month we changed things up a little bit. Let me get this stuff out of here so I can go through our new starter kit. We used to send individual paints with each one of our boxes, but we have decided to provide all of our new subscribers with a starter kit, and we also are catching up our old subscribers with the new paints, a new sanding block, and the paint tray, so you will be able to mix your paints. So in your starter kit, you'll have your glue gun, glue sticks, a sanding block, a pack of 10 paints, a 1-inch paintbrush, and the paint tray. These paint trays are gonna come in handy because we can squirt paint on it. You can mix your own colors. You can do all sorts of stuff with the paints on the paint tray and wash it off at the end and have it to use for later. So with these paints, they're a little different than our paints we've sent before. A lot of the paints that you find at the craft stores are acrylic paints. I've been asked by a lot to switch to acrylic paints. I've been hesitant to do that, but that's what's most readily available, so that's what we switched to. I have a feeling you're going to love the colors. I custom picked these colors, designed everything for you guys. I really do love them a lot. I'm having a hard time deciding what I'm going to use, as you are going to now, because now you have 10 paints to pick from for the future of your projects. If you run out of a color, we do have individual bottles for sale in our group or in our store, and then also we do have the full box you can purchase again if you need it. This should last you quite a few months. Maybe you'll run out of one of the lighter colors. The lighter colors may need double coats. Who knows how you'll use it, but they are for sale. You can replenish them, and we will send you more. So very first thing to get started, I love gray, so I'm gonna go with gray on this. I'm gonna use the slate for my board color and the stone, smoke, the other gray, for the wording. You can do so many different things with the different colors. So those are my two colors I'm going to choose to use this month. Hot glue gun, we shouldn't need the hot glue gun. If you choose to make a braid and to hang that, or just use string to hang, you may use hot glue gun to tie it on. But other than that, we should be pretty good to go. So let's get started. Those are my color choices. The gray and gray on gray. I may change to cream for the top color, who knows. But here's our reusable stencil. Reusable stencils are awesome because we can wash them and reuse them again. This month we're going to cut this one apart and cut it into pieces and cut down the slats. So it may not be as reusable, but that's okay because we will have more for sale if you need another one. You have 70 circles and 25 hearts. The circles are for birth dates and other significant dates. The hearts are for anniversaries or wedding days or whatever you want to signify with a heart. So there's kind of a fun variety, breaks up the look a little bit. I was never in love with these kind of projects. Sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I was never in love with these projects because of my handwriting and writing on these little discs. So I had these made, and they match the writing on here, and I think you're gonna love them. It's our beloved Rae Dunn type font. And they're little tiny custom stamps made for just you guys. So you can either use the ink pad to stamp the names on, or you can, I'll teach you how to use paint as well if you would like different colors. But let's just set those to the side for right now. All this can be set to the side. We won't use that yet. First things first, we will paint the pieces and let them dry. right, the sign pieces are painted. I don't mind the sheer look because I will sand off anyways and make the edges show through sheer. If you don't like that, go ahead and double coat after yours dry. Put a second coat of paint on. It'll just fill in that sheerness a little bit. So all paints are different, all types are different. Some do it, some don't. It just depends. And it also depends on what you like the look of. So if you don't mind it, just leave it. I'm gonna leave it so you can see what it looks like with it a little more sheer. I like it because I can bring out the colors of the wood behind. I like it. So it looks more like a stain. More fun to me. So I'm going to paint the hearts and the circles. This may be a little bit intimidating or seem crazy time consuming, but I think if we get a pretty good method going here, it shouldn't be too hard to get them all painted. I'm going to set out a bunch just like this so they're flat on a piece of paper. You can use the paper that comes in the boxes, that's kind of handy. I'm also going to grab a screwdriver to hold them in place while I dab them with paint. Or you can put gloves on and paint them however you choose. But I'm going to go like this and put the screwdriver tip in there and paint. All right, all the hearts and circles are painted. I'm gonna let those dry and we'll be back with the next step. Okay, next I'm gonna sand our sign pieces and get those ready. So take your sanding block and sand those edges really good. I chose not to paint the back just to conserve paint. Don't need it, won't see it. So you can choose if you want to do it or not, but I did not. So I'll only be sanding the painted parts. So here we go. Okay, so they're all sanded. I did wipe them off just a tad really quickly with a sort of damp cloth. You don't want the wood to be wet at all when you put on your stencil. So your stencil, it's like press and seal. If you don't get it sealed all the way around the edges, it's gonna leak. Any liquid, anything is going to leak underneath. That's the same thing here. So we get a lot of people asking us, why did my stencil leak? That's mostly the reason why, is because of that. So make sure that you have your edges down on this and that your wood cleaned really well. So take your wood, the back side of the wood is with the big holes, line it up in the center and with the top and the center of the first piece of wood. These braces do go on the front. I have seen some people put them on the back, and you totally can do that. Just know there might be little holes because they were made and designed this way. And then just take your screwdriver and screw these in. Okay, so I have the top piece. I'm going to attach the bottom, and again, center it. If you want to measure and make sure your sides are good. Oh, here's something flat. This is an easy way to make sure that your sides are even. Take something that's flat. There we go. If you don't put enough downward force down on your screw when you're screwing it in, your wood won't, it'll pull the wood up instead of go down. So make sure you're doing a good amount of pressure down. You want it just to sink into that wood, get it stuck there. Okay. So there are gaps between. Again, if you don't like that look, you can put the boards together. But I did design the stencil for the gaps in there, so don't think that you're gonna lose your words in the gaps. Okay, the screws you used on the back are the little silver ones. If you have extra screws and hardware in them, just set them to the side. You won't need it for this. There is the project. Okay, now we have to do our stencil. And I'm super excited about this one. So I'm going to cut the bottom off and do this separate. You can choose to do our family celebration separate. You can choose to take off our and center, cut this family out and center the family. So you can just do family celebrations. You can do our celebrations, take out family. You can do celebrations only. So there's kind of some options there, whatever fits you and what you prefer to have be on your sign. This guy goes from end to end. So that January goes right there on the edge, and February goes right on the inside. The bee should not be up on the wood. So I'm gonna take this guy out and I'm gonna line up that bee right on that edge. Just like that, okay? So there's January, February. March goes right on there. You can center him if you want. They're all spaced appropriately. Okay, and the October is going to be split. O will be up here, down below, and the CT will be above. So I suggest placing the O first, right up along there. Okay. And the last ones, CT. Oh, I'm going to move these over just a tad to make them fit my sign. Everybody's signs are going to be a little bit different depending on where these braces were put. So you might have to readjust yours and do them a little bit differently, but that's okay. that down. So we can't predict how everybody's going to do theirs, but we can get pretty close to them all being the same. Okay, and I'm going to do the N up top and the OV down below. Just like that. Okay, so I have that on. The way I like to do these stencils is with a smaller brush. So if you have a smaller brush, you can use a smaller brush. If you don't, that's okay too. And I think I will continue to use smoke. I used smoke on the hearts and circles, so I'm going to continue using smoke. You can also use your other brush, but just paint that in there. And you can actually peel this off right away. Once you get an edge of it up. Little turkey. There you go. Okay, so there's DEC. And see, this is where it may not be reusable, just depending on how much you had to chop it up. It might not be too user-friendly for a second user. Okay, there's the dates. When you're picking your colors too, you want to make sure it's something that's going to contrast enough, because it's not much fun when they don't show. Okay, I'm going to do the big one. And I'm keeping it as our family celebrations. And I'm lining this up with the top and the sides. This stencil's made just for this size, and I'm going to press down those sides and then take an X-Acto or a sharp blade and just cut that stencil right along there. Pretty simple. I know this probably intimidated some of you and didn't make much sense with having the gaps on the front or anything, but when I was creating this project, again, I didn't ever love them because of the little doohickeys and having to handwrite, but I also always saw just one single plaque. Everything was just one single plaque, and I didn't love that. And so I wanted to create some dimension with this. So we did what I like to call a multi-board sign. Some of you may not know, but Project Home DIY came from our first business, which was Mason Creations. So with Mason Creations, we built and did custom wood signs for people, hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands of signs, hand built. Just like this style, this would be a multi-board style in my book of terms of words and signs and stuff. And when I was selling or creating for somebody, this is what I would say is a multi-board sign. And these were one of my favorite signs because they just make such a pretty statement. So I'm going to use my bigger brush when doing these words. And even, I think it'd be fun to add a little bit of cotton, which is the white, to this color, and let's create a custom color. Even if I did put that already on there right now, we'll just mix it up and go. Even do a lighter gray. This is what's going to be so fun about your paint palette. is being able to create your own colors. If you're not sure you like that, just create a color you want. It's gonna be super cool. So there, I just went a tish wider. Make sure not to get it on the sides. If you do, again, X-Acto knife is amazing for that. It'll come right off. See how I'm staying away from those side pieces? This one I can definitely do on the top. I just go every which direction because I really want it to get filled in there. Oh, and I see my the O up there didn't seal quite good enough. We may have a leak right there, but I will fix it with the X-Acto knife, and I'll show you how to do that. Main point is just to get that paint in that mesh. That's what you want. I'm gonna use my little brush right up against here on the edge. Okay, before I peel it, I'm just gonna check one of the sides. Looks awesome. And I'm not going to keep mine, but in the future, if you have some sort of reusable stencil that you like, that you want to keep, you can. And you didn't have to cut in a bunch of pieces, you can keep it. By the way you keep it is get a tray of water and let it soak in it. Okay, here we go. It's looking amazing. There's a little bit of cleanup I'm gonna have to do in the cracks, but that's not a big deal. Looks so good. Okay. Just gonna take my X-Acto knife and see, I just scraped that little piece out there. Scrape it out there. And there. X-Acto knives are like amazing. I love them. So I did do a little bit lighter up here just to do something different. You don't have to super worry about it being centered because the way I built the stencil, it is, this is the T. I see the end of the T right here. So I'm going to fill that in because I want a little bit more of that T cross showing right there. Here we go. I love it. I do see some pieces that didn't fill in super much, but you probably can't even tell that, so I just fixed it. Okay. There it is. This is the first time I built this too, you guys. I do this with you the very first time. So I have these ideas in my head and I actually don't put them together, believe it or not, until I work with you guys. So you get to watch my bloopers on the way. All right. Okay, celebration sign is ready to go. I'm gonna let that dry. And in the meantime, we can start on circles and the names. I'm going to take just a little bit of this. Okay, done with that, done with that. These guys, I would just take them and maybe run them on the sanding block just a tiny bit. Wood has grain in it. Grain pulls up when moisture is put on it. Moisture is put on it by paint. So just rough those up a little bit. Another way it would be super easy to paint these, spray paint. So if you want to skip the hand painting, you could spray paint. Totally. We still have quite a few steps with this. Okay, so I got them all sanded and I want to show you how you can use paints. Just keep in mind, paints are going to be a lot different than the ink that you have. Ink is just going to be more pigmented, darker, so if you choose like white on these, it might not show up for the paints. Just keep that in mind. But with the paints, I'm just making a really thin layer right here of paint that I want to use. I'm going to use the black, and I have a stamp, and I just lightly touch it in there, make sure it's all covered, and then I can stamp it on. So if you use paint though, make sure that you dab it off, because it will cake on that stamp and you don't want that to happen. So you'll want to make sure you dab that stamp off to clean off the rubber for sure if you do that. So just dab it right on and you can go. So the stamps are pretty small, although everybody's name in the world that you know may not fit on it. You might have to do initials, you might have to get creative and go in a circle around the outside, or you might have to just do initials on the hearts, whatever works. But most people put the name and the day of the birthday, because obviously you're going to hang it under the birth month, so that's taken care of. So then do the name and the birthday. So I'm going to do my little families, and I think I'm just going to take all these little stamps out so they're much easier to grab. They're so little right now. And find what I need. Brand new, so you got to pull them apart a little bit. Okay, so I'm ready to start. Again, don't squash your stamp all the way down into the ink, because you're just gonna maybe make more of a mess than anything. These are teeny, so they just need a teeny bit, okay? Okay, so my husband's name is Matt, and he was born on February 2nd. So Matt, 2. Okay, this maybe wasn't such a good idea, dumping all these out, because now I can't find them. I'm sure you guys in our VIP group will come up with a super fantastic way to organize these and to get them out, because they're tiny, but I love them. So I think they're perfect. Okay, let's see, who do we have next? I have a Liam. If you want to see where you're stamping, just pick it up. There we go. Okay, so obviously this is going to be a big, long process. This is going to take you guys a while, especially if you have huge families. Speaking of huge families, if you have huge families, we will have more of these in our store for you to be able to get a hold of. But if you do need more, we will have those. So I'm not going to do my entire families because that's silliness, but I'm going to show you the rest of finishing this. So let's get this finished. Pretend we have these all ready to go, all done. I'm going to put on the jump rings. Where did they go? There they are. The jump rings. And you just center them with the center letter in each date. So then they're all in the same spot. I'm gonna poke them in and then twist. Poke them in, twist. If you've been with us for a little while, we had a similar project where you had to do this a bunch. And there was a bunch of different little techniques, but these ones won't be bad. There's only 12. We won't have to come up with a bunch of techniques. Just get them in there tight. There you go. You can stick, again, like a screwdriver in it and twirl it that way. I'll do that next. So find the middle letter. If once you get all your rings hung up and you don't like how they hang, unscrew it and move it left or right, however so it does hang right. Don't feel like you have to keep it exactly where I say, oh, that won't work. See, I told you guys I learned with you. Well, you gotta kind of keep your screwdriver to the side. But that does work. Just because of the head of the screwdriver. So if you use just something smaller, it wouldn't be so bad. So, we'll put all those down. All right, all the little rings are in. They're a challenge for sure. You may have to take them a few at a time, have some help, something, but they are a challenge. I get that. I never said this would be easy, but it'll be fun. So next is, let's put our hangers on the back. So you can choose to do this a couple ways. If you don't want any type of hanger like this, I'm going to make one out of jute, out of black jute yarn, because I thought that would be fun to include. You can braid one. I've seen those, they turned out really pretty. You can just hang jute like this, which is what I'm going to do with a couple pieces of it. Just depends on what you want for the look. So I'm gonna get our hangers on there. If you don't want anything, we did provide you with sawtooth hangers. So center those over your screw holes. You can see I still built it upside down. Oops. No big deal, won't affect the function, but I tried so hard. So make sure that you just center those on the screws and be the same distance from the top, or else your sign will hang crooked. I'm not going to put those on because I'm going to use the jute and make a fun little hanger. Just getting a bunch of string. Okay, I'll set that to the side. All right, and put that on in just a moment. But right now I'm going to create the strings of months. So once you have those all organized, you'll take the rings, and one ring needs to go on the hook. So these do bend on their own, or you can use pliers, but they do bend. So once you bend them one way, it's hard to get them squashed back the other way. So if you bend them, it'll stretch them a little bit. So put it through your ring, and then put your next ring on. And there it is. And just keep building. And put a heart in there. If an anniversary is next, you usually put them in date order. I have a feeling after we do a bunch of these, we're gonna get really good at them. So there's heart in there, and then we'll add and keep going. So once you get your whole string made, then you attach it to the hook for the correct month. And of course these can all be changed if they need to be. So there is how it's going to look once you are all finished. So I'm going to finish mine, but you don't have to watch me do that because that's silly. But if you need to use pliers, use pliers. But you can link all of them and then share your finished projects in our group. Let's see, one more, put on my hanger. I'm gonna just put hot glue right here, a dab, and a dab here for the black jute. And before I touch it, I'm gonna lick my finger because hot glue won't stick to a wet surface. And then I'm gonna put some hot glue over it. On my stamp. I got a mess here. There's so many little pieces. These are very time consuming for sure. Probably one of the hardest projects. I don't think it tops the lanterns though. I think that was the hardest for everybody. Okay, so see, I keep licking my fingers to touch that, keep it cool. It doesn't stick to me. Ends up being clear. Kind of nicer looking on the back. Cools it down faster. And isn't sticky. Okay. So there is what it would look like with the jute hanger. And 3 people on it so far. I'll have to get to adding those, but you get the idea of the finished look. Oh, that's crooked. There we go. So, I cannot wait to see the color combinations with all of our paint options we have this month for you guys. Please join our VIP group. It's on on Facebook. There's no cost. I was asked about cost the other day. There's no cost to join it. It's just another Facebook group, but not just another Facebook group because we're awesome. We share a lot of tips and tricks. Everybody will share theirs, and it just turns into a really cool thing to be able to see everybody's. The QR code at the bottom of your instructions, also scan that. And you just go to your camera app on your phone, along with scanning to get to this video. You can do the same thing, but you just go to your camera app on your phone, and then Safari website will pop up. So, with that, make sure you join us next month. Can't wait to see you guys. Bye. Thank you.